Execution by elephants. In parts of South and Southeast Asia, particularly in India, execution by elephant was practiced from ancient times until the 19th century. The condemned would be brought before a trained elephant. At the command of its keeper, the elephant would either crush the person quickly underfoot or, in more prolonged executions, dismember the individual limb by limb. Sometimes the person was also hanged and pierced by the elephant's tusks. This method was reserved for those who committed what were considered the most serious offenses. Records from European travelers in the 16th and 17th centuries describe witnessing these executions, which were often public spectacles intended to demonstrate the power of rulers. The Bestiarii of Rome. In ancient Rome, condemned criminals could be sentenced to death in the arena as bestiarii, those who faced wild beasts. Unlike trained gladiators who fought animals with weapons and armor, the bestiarii were typically unarmed and unprotected. They would be exposed to hungry lions, bears, and other predators in the Colosseum or other amphitheaters. This form of execution served as public entertainment, while simultaneously demonstrating the consequences of defying Roman law. Emperor Nero notably used this method against early Christians. Dismemberment by horses and mules. A particularly brutal execution method used in medieval Europe involved tying the condemned's limbs to different animals, usually horses. The condemned would have each limb bound to a different horse. At a signal, the horses would be driven in different directions, tearing the person apart. This execution was typically reserved for those convicted of crimes like treason or regicide. Perhaps the most famous example was the execution of Robert François d'Amiens in 1757, who was convicted of attempting to assassinate King Louis XV of France. Death by dogs. Several historical societies employed trained dogs as executioners. In certain ancient civilizations and later in parts of Europe, specially trained dogs would be starved before being set upon condemned prisoners. This method appears in records from ancient Persia and was also documented during the conquest of the Americas. Spanish conquistadors reportedly used this method against some indigenous peoples, and similar accounts exist from colonization efforts in other regions. Death by poisonous animals. Throughout history, venomous creatures have been used as tools of execution. In ancient times, methods included forcing the condemned to reach into containers housing venomous snakes or scorpions. In other cases, victims might be tied down and exposed to multiple venomous creatures, ensuring death. The most famous poisoning execution in Western history is probably that of Socrates, who was forced to drink hemlock, though this was self-administered rather than animal-delivered. So, what's the takeaway here? Historical execution methods were pretty fucked up. Make sure to subscribe to see more videos about animals like this.